This is Undisputed with Skip and Shannon, and they on this segment they're gonna discuss whether T.O. or Randy Moss or whichever one should be in the Hall of Fame. T.O. This is his third try to try to get in the Hall of Fame, I believe, and this is Randy Moss. This is his first attempt. To be honest with you, both of these guys are first ballot Hall of Famers. We all know Randy Moss, to me, probably, and to most people, was the most gifted wide receiver in NFL history. I'm not saying he was the best wide receiver, but he was the most gifted with speed and size and the length and his catching radius of his era and in any era, for that matter. T.O. was one of the most physical receivers, and he had an overall package. He caught balls through the middle. And T.O. was a great receiver. He was under the tutelage of Jerry Rice. He played in San Francisco when Jerry Rice was like at the tail end of his career at San Francisco. But he did go on to play with the Raiders. Jerry Rice did. But T.O. always talks about how Jerry Rice took him up under his wing and taught him a lot about the game.
Randy Moss is a first-time finalist, while Terrell Owens is on the ballot for the third time. Moss is second all-time in touchdown receptions, and Owens is right behind him in third. But both players have also been criticized for on- and off-field antics. Shannon?
And that has been a major discussion why T.O. didn't get in, because his on-the-field antics. One thing about T.O., he never had an off-the-field antic. Never did anything off the field that I can remember. All his things, all his his shortcomings came on the field. He was with San Francisco, and I remember him and Jeff Garcia got into it. The quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. I think T.O. called him, said he was a homosexual or something of that nature. T.O. got into it with his coach at the time and said that I know when the Bears played, when the San Francisco 49ers played the Bears, and I remember the Bears coming back. I'm a Bears fan, so I seen that game. Dick Duran was the coach at the time, and Steve Mariucci was the San Francisco coach, and I believe Steve Mariucci and Dick Duran had a close friendship, and instead of the 49ers putting their foot on the game and really getting the Bears out of the game and blowing them out to where they couldn't come back, T.O., he accused the coach of taking his foot off the pedal because it was his friend. And I remember the Bears had a miraculous comeback, and they came back and won the game. And him and T.O. relationship never was the same after that.
What's your prediction for tomorrow's vote?
I believe both of these guys get in. Skip, the thing is that what we're seeing here is that people keep trying to put Moss against T.O. and Moss against T.O. I think you should judge them on the era in which they played in. And if you look at them in the era they played in, they were the two preeminent wide receivers at that time. Now,
I agree with Shannon Sharp. They were the two best receivers at that time. They were rivals. I think Randy was a little bit better because of his, like I said, his natural gifts. But T.O. was right there. If they were 1A and 1B, T.O. was right there. I believe T.O. does have more touchdowns than Randy Moss, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong about that. And so T.O. was right there. T.O. just was not eye-popping as Randy Moss. T.O. did play in the Super Bowl, but he ended up losing to the Patriots. Randy Moss never got to the Super Bowl. That team in '99 that he played with Chris Carter, and Randall Cunningham was a quarterback. That year was a record-breaking year for their offense. They had a very explosive offense. I believe they had Robert Griffin as their running back. He was very good, 1,000-yard back, perennial 1,000-yard back. They had a great year that year. They were the most prolific offense up until the Rams came in. Then after the Rams, it was the Falcons. 2 years ago or last year? So Randy Moss never made it to the Super Bowl, but they should have won that game versus the Falcons. I remember their kicker missed a field goal. That was his first field goal he missed all season. So the dreams of the Vikings going to the Super Bowl were dashed.
Both of these guys also played in the era where it wasn't just throw the ball, 50 times a game. They came into the league where you also ran the football, and they were putting up these astronomical numbers. And then when the league shifted and started calling more incidental contact, they started protecting the quarterbacks more. And you saw the completion percentage of quarterbacks go from, when I first got in the league, if you were a high 50 completion percent guy, Skip, you were a very good player. If you complete under 60% of your balls now, you're trash. That's what they label you as.
Yeah.
And so now we've seen guys go from high 50s, mid 60s, upper.
That's a great point that Shannon is bringing out. The league is more of a pass-happy league right now. The defensive backs cannot be physical with the receivers as they used to back in his day, back in Randy and T.O.'s day. And they did. The league was more of a balanced league of running and passing the ball. Nowadays, if a quarterback throw for 300 yards, it's like, so what? But back then, that was a big thing to throw for 300 yards. So the game, is it watered down? I believe so, because I like balance. I like the integrate of a great running back in the running game and seeing a balanced offense. Most quarterbacks should not be throwing 40 and 50 times a game. It's just not in their DNA. Only a certain amount of quarterbacks should have that that leverage to be able to throw that many times a game. But most of these quarterbacks, I'm gonna say it's 30 teams. Only about 5 quarterbacks should be throwing the ball that many times. Matt Ryan, Tom Brady. You can say Aaron Rodgers. You can say you can probably put in. I can't really say a whole lot past them that should be passing the ball in that nature around that many times a game, because most quarterbacks, if they throw the ball more than 30 times, they are prone to a lot of interceptions. But one person I'm gonna say that most people probably wouldn't agree, but I think Alex Smith can handle it. Alex Smith, he doesn't throw a whole lot of interceptions. Now, he doesn't throw the ball deep as much, but Alex Smith makes very good decisions with the football. He's the quarterback for Washington. Kansas City traded him. They're ready to move on for him. They're ready to put Mahomes in and see what he can do. They did draft him top 10 pick last year, but the writing was on the wall when they drafted him top 10. We all knew eventually that guy was going to start.
60. We see Drew Brees and some of these other quarterbacks completing 70%. I think Drew Brees just completed 72% of his passes.
And Drew Brees, he should be able to throw the ball 40 times a game.
Seasons in NFL. Skip, it's just hard. And also what I see, because Randy transitioned to TV, it's kind of softened his image. We look at Randy now like, you know what, Randy all right. Randy's all right.
Yep.
See, Randy had some off the field issues that people don't realize even before he got to the NFL. When Randy was in high school, he was involved in knocking a guy out or really hurting a guy in a brawl in high school, and then in college he had a couple of domestic disputes. He did have a Notre Dame did recruit him. He was going to go to Notre Dame. He had a domestic dispute with his girlfriend, so he did not. Lou Holtz made a call to Bobby Bowden at Florida State. He was supposed to go to Florida State, and he ended up having another incident. It was a thing going around that T.O. ran roughshod all through the defensive backs at Florida State, and we all know what kind of athletes Florida State had back then, and they still continue to have. Florida State is all about speed and agility, and for him to go in there and just run roughshod as a freshman all over the DBs in practice tells you what great talent Randy Moss was. But Randy Moss had a lengthier of off the field situations going on, and yes, he's been on television the last 3 or 4 years, and it has, as Shannon said, it has softened his image, and people have kind of forgotten the indiscretions that he had off the field.
Didn't get an opportunity to go into TV for whatever reason.
There's a lot of opportunity right here on.
No, I'm just saying, Randy is on, every Sunday. He's talking about football. He's breaking down games. It softened his image.
Well, it doesn't soften Terrell's because he sits here arguing with me.
He's been arguing with a lot of people, Skip, and he has some very valid points that he should be. It's hard for me to believe that the guy that has the third most touchdowns, the second most receiving yards, isn't in the Hall of Fame. What other sport It's hard for me to believe that the guy that has the second or third most home runs isn't in the Hall of Fame. The guy that has the second or third most points in the NBA or the second or third most rebounds isn't in the Hall of Fame. How do you tell this 98-year history without having Terrell Owens in it? Mm-hmm. You can't. And talking to some people that were in the room that's been voting for years, some of them have been voting for upwards of 20 years, said it was the most contentious they had ever seen it. Yeah. And it came down to some people felt it was like...
And see, T.O. made some enemies in the media. But to me, the media, and it's a lot of media members that have votes for the Hall of Fame. I think former players should have the bulk of the votes. Media should be in there because they cover the game, they write about the game. But in the media, they can be sensitive and they can be a little over emotional. And when it's time for these players to go in the Hall of Fame, instead of a guy going in on the first ballot that deserve to go in the first ballot like a T.O., they make the guy wait. Either you're a Hall of Fame or you're not. You don't have to think about a guy being a Hall of Fame. If you have to think about a guy being a Hall of Fame, then maybe he's just not a Hall of Fame. I don't understand going in on the first try, or the guy got to wait 5 and 6 tries to go in, like a Chris Carter. Chris Carter waited 5 times to go in. To me, that's ridiculous. Michael Irvin waited. They made him wait. That's ridiculous. And the rule that they had in place, T.O. should have made it, because in the previous rule, they had no rule that you couldn't go in, that they took an effect that what you did on and off the field. It was just what you did on the field, production-wise, that they was grading you on. And now this year they put in their conduct, as far as your team on the field and off the field, will hurt your chances of getting in the Hall of Fame on the first or second try.
Like this plain hatred. It's like they were going out of their way to find a reason to keep this young man out of the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't try to find reasons to keep someone out. That's not what it's about. What did he do on the field? What he did on the field is second to none. Like I said, I can make the case that he's the second greatest receiver of all time. But stop trying to put them against each other. Well, if you put T.O. in, you can't put Randy in this year. If you put Randy in, you can't. T.O. needs to wait. Well, Michael waited and Chris Carter waited. I don't want to hear all that. These guys deserve to be in the T.O. should have been a first ballot. Randy should be a first ballot. And for T.O. to have to wait this long is unacceptable. But T.O., since he's been off the field, I don't think anybody's changed their perception of T.O. Whatever you thought of him when he played, you still feel that exact same way now. I just think the perception of Randy has changed because he's on there now.
Okay. So, my bottom line to this discussion is I believe that Terrell Owens, unbelievably, now has a little better chance of getting in this Saturday than even Randy Moss does. Because...
I think he generated sympathy.
Yes. And I probably have helped his cause a little bit, but I stand by what I've said from the start. This is even before he was retired. He wouldn't be in my Hall of Fame.
Well, see, that's the difference. Skip has been campaigning that T.O. is not a Hall of Famer. Because Skip, he covered the San Francisco 49ers, and the Dallas Cowboys is his home team. And he's mad because he feels that T.O. kind of shammed the Dallas Cowboys locker room and caused a lot of chaos, that they didn't win a Super Bowl or they didn't win enough games. But see, Skip, he doesn't have to be in your Hall of Fame. All he has to do is get in the Football Hall of Fame, which he deserves to be in the Football Hall of Fame. And that's just my take on it. Let me know what you think. Do you think T.O. should be in the Hall of Fame, or do you think T.O. has done things on the field that makes him ineligible to ever be a Hall of Famer in Skip's point of view? In my point of view, the man is a Hall of Famer, period, point blank.